Hello, folks. Welcome to Pro Trader Strategies. My name is Eric Wilkinson, and this is Spotting the Trade. What we're trying to do here is get you what you need to know before you roll, and that's going to be talking about the economic data, how that impacts the overall markets with a little market analysis, maybe sprinkle in a little geopolitical fodder to round off that market analysis, and then talk about some option strategies we could be implementing into our portfolios based on these assumptions we come up with in the market analysis. All right, so without further ado, let's get on with it. Oh, wait, before you go, smash that like button for me. Before we start, talk about the economic data this week, even not a whole lot to go on. So it's really going to be driven by earnings and what we're hearing from these heads of these companies as to the demand, what they see in the economy going forward. Apple's going to be a big one today, so we're going to be keeping our eyes out for that. But before we get on with the individual stocks, let's talk about some broader markets here. We've got crude oil here coming off finally from the 120s. Yes, we did test that overnight. Not something anybody really wants to see right now. Heading into the summer, we don't want to see crude oil sucking up all our extra cash is the best way to put it, really. But testing that 120, finally getting rejected today. Like to see this start to really roll over going forward. And then we've got bonds. They're starting to follow through. We've been talking about higher interest rates. Anytime you see the bonds start to rally, meaning price moving higher, that is a time to be an opportunity to sell those covered calls against a portfolio of bonds. I talk about how we do that with like TLT and names that have an ETF around that underlying, and that's what we're talking about with the bonds, trying to lower that overall cost basis in our portfolios there. You need to do that. No, I'm not talking about just going out there and hedging a GMO or anything like that. What we're talking about is trying to hedge an overall broader portfolio, and I show you different tricks to do that. Now, talking about with Bitcoin, it's finally starting to get a little bit of a bump here with the rest of the equities. Now, to me, that's a little bit more concerning because that tells me it's an investor that's starting to come back into the market and not as fearful of this rollover in equities. Now, that's a good thing for the equities, I would say, but that is not causation or correlation to buy Bitcoin. As a matter of fact, I think when things are going bad, Bitcoin should be that vehicle that we use as a retainer of value, or something that would be where we would go to park our money. And that's not really what we're seeing here. And it wasn't even really happening in gold, which is a bit of a bizarre thing for me, but gold coming off again as well. The last couple of days, I don't know if we're going to get that sustained rally. Now, VIX is starting to show that equities may have found a bottom here. We've been talking about the different types of chart setups here in the equities to show us a little bit of a bottoming pattern. Now, it seems like today everybody's talking about this big move higher right now in the Nasdaq, the equities basically across the board. Well, we've got the Nasdaq up almost 2% right now, but that's only about half back of what we saw that sell-off happen on Friday. So I don't think we're out of the woods here yet. As a matter of fact, we've talked about this little pattern here where we're building out this head and shoulders. We've got the left shoulder, we've got the head, and now we're building out this shoulder here. So it is inverted. So I've tried to show a different chart a couple of ways here, but we can see that we've got a left shoulder, the head, and trying to build out a right shoulder. I'd like to see this come down a little bit further in order to create that right shoulder here, but it looks like we're trying to do it just a little bit right here. It's going to be maybe not a quintessential quote unquote head and shoulders pattern, but we're trying to set up for that right now. Dow Jones Industrial Average looks very similar as well. It's not up as much as the Nasdaq, but again, the Nasdaq was the one that was selling off. So when we start to see the influx of cash again, it's probably going to be in some of these high flyer names like we find in the Nasdaq, whether it's Tesla, Amazon, Apple. Those are the names that folks are going to be keying in on to find these bottoms. Now, I've been talking about it. I think it's time to maybe start layering in some opportunities here on these sell-offs by selling some puts. We've gotten this little bit of a bounce here at the equities. That was the time to now start covering some of those short puts, get out of those trades. If we get another pullback again, then we can get back into layering in some of these puts as well, because most of these puts have kind of expired, worthless, or are worth very little at this point. So at that point, that's when we need to retool and die on those types of trades. E-mini S&Ps, again, very similar. We could probably just change the name up here, and the charts almost look exactly the same today, don't they? We're very near those value area lows. Those are opportunities to add into equities. But what we're seeing right now, though, is the meat of some of these equities are going to really start coming through and giving us a little bit more of a directional indication here, because we're not going to get anything this week out of any economic data. So we're going to be really reliant on what these folks are saying through their earnings calls. So keep your eyes out for that. That said, I haven't really done anything in my portfolio as of right now. I am still looking sell puts and opportunities that we could add into our portfolio. So I'm sitting on my hands right now, folks, just waiting for this inventory to kind of work itself out to see whether we found that bottom or if we can start really getting aggressive. All right. So that's all I got to say, other than if you can't take that, take it easy.